All right, thank you guys, and welcome to our NBA free pick video here today for Friday, January 14th, 2022. Happy Friday to you. It's payday. It's Friday. The weekend's right. It's not even around the corner. It's here. It's Friday, baby. Now, my name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And as always, guys, please feel free to share your picks, action, and personal bets in the comments section below. I'd love to see who you guys are betting on today, and I'd love to give a shout out to those winning picks and publicly acknowledge your winners. Kind of like my man Anthony Thornhill the other day, who had Notre Dame minus 2.5, and he pounded that game for a Wednesday night winner. Now, guys, if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website at brockpage.com. Now, we currently have packages starting out at just $1.99. We're also 3-1 in our last 4 board member tier package picks on that very same website. So even though we've been struggling significantly, really in the new year, that is a lone bright spot. Once again, 3-1 in our last 4 board member tier package picks. Now, the good news is we have another board member tier package pick going off here today. And the best part about being a board member is that, well, board members get access to every single pick that I give out on that brockpage.com website all the way through the end of January. It's kind of an all-inclusive pass. So if you were to sign up for my board member package here today, the math would actually work out to be just $2.77 a day all the way through the end of the month. And at an average of 5 premium sports picks a day, it's actually going to work out to be just around 55 cents a pick on average. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free picks. Enough with the commercial. Let's go ahead and dive into the Celtics taking on the Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Philadelphia is minus 3.5 with the total at 212. Now, Philly's won 7 out of their last 8 ball games, 70% against the number in their last 10. Philadelphia is allowing only 105 points a game defensively, and they're also in the top 10 in the NBA in guarding the 3 ball at home. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Joel Embiid is averaging over 27 points a game, along with double-digit boards and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris is scoring over 18 points a night himself, along with 7 rebounds and 3 assists as well. Now, they're taking on a Boston team who's had a tough time covering the point spread here recently. The Celtics failed to cover in 6 out of their last 9 ball games. And they're also winning just 38% of their contests on the road. Meanwhile, defensively, the Celtics have struggled underneath the basket. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive rebounding on the road. Meanwhile, offensively on the other end of the court, they also find themselves in the bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage, really struggling shooting the basketball. And they're also having a tough time shooting the 3 ball from downtown. Now, injury-wise, Marcus Smart is questionable to play here tonight for Boston. Meanwhile, for the Sixers, it's Green, Milton, and Springer who are out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Philly's seen overs against the likes of Orlando, Houston, and Toronto. Meanwhile, Boston recently saw games against Indiana, New York, and Orlando get over the posted total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia minus 3.5 in the over 212. Next ball game, it is going to be Suns versus the Pacers, and that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Phoenix is minus 5.5 with the total at 220. Now, the Suns failed to cover in their last 2 straight, and they've also got themselves a handful of guys on the injury report here tonight. Having said that, though, Phoenix still got the W in 5 out of their last 7 ball games, and they're winning 78% of their contests on the road. As a matter of fact, the Suns are allowing only 104 points a night, and they're in the top 3 in defending the 3 ball away from home. And when it comes to scoring in this one, Devin Booker is averaging over 23 points a game, along with 5 boards and 4 assists. Now, Brooks is also drilling 41% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, DeAndre Ayton is scoring over 16.5 points a game himself, along with double-digit rebounds. And speaking of boards, The Suns are currently in the top 10 in offensive rebounding per game. And of course, when it comes to shooting the basketball, the Suns find themselves in the top 3 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage. Now, they're taking on a Pacer team who lost 8 out of their last 9 ball games themselves. And they're also a dozen games below 500 right now for the entire season. Now, the Pacers also may be going to work here without their leading scorer, Malcolm Brogdon. He's listed as questionable with an Achilles injury. But I'll tell you this much, even when they're mostly healthy, the Pacers are in the bottom 3 in shooting the 3 ball. And they're also amongst the worst in the Eastern Conference in offensive rebounding at home. So a lot of problem areas for Indiana. If you're looking to back them here tonight, just keep those factors in mind. Now, when it comes to the injury report, once again, Brogdon is questionable. Craig and Duarte, they are questionable to play as well. Meanwhile, for Phoenix on the other side, Nader is out. Johnson and Wainwright, they are listed as questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, Phoenix went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games. And those were overs against the likes of Miami, New Orleans, and Boston. Meanwhile, Indiana's gone 61% to the over at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I'm going to lean toward Phoenix minus 5.5 in the over 220. Next ball game, it is going to be Raptors versus the Pistons. And that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Now, Toronto's minus 7.5 with the total at 216. Now, the Raptors have won 6 out of their last 7 ball games. And they're actually doing a real nice job shooting from the stripe on the road. Having said that, though, the Raptors have actually struggled defensively away from home this year. They're currently in the bottom 10 in points allowed per contest when traveling. They're also in the bottom 10 in defending the 3 ball on the road as well. And of course, when it comes to head-to-head meetings here, well, Toronto's failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10 ball games against Detroit. And speaking of the Pistons, they've actually strung together a handful of wins here recently themselves. They're 4-3 straight up in their last 7 ball games. And they also have a winning record against the point spread at the Little Caesars Arena. Cade Cunningham scoring over 15 points a game, along with 5 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Sadiq Bey, he's scoring over 15 points a night himself, along with 6 boards and 2.5 assists. So as bad as Detroit's been, I mean, they're not completely helpless, at least with regard to the number. And once again, as bad as the Pistons have been this season, they do actually find themselves in the top 10 in fewest second quarter points allowed at home. So if you're into prop betting, maybe you want to think about a second quarter under, or maybe, bet the second quarter point spread. But regardless of that, when it comes to the injury report, Olynyk and Livers, they're still out indefinitely. Their status is really not changing much. Meanwhile, Jeremy Grant, he's also still out with that thumb. Meanwhile, for the Raptors on the other side of things, Trent and Barnes, they are sitting this one out here for tonight's action as well. And when it comes to the total in this one, Toronto went 8-2 to the over in their last 10 outings, 67% to the over in all of their road games this year. Meanwhile, Detroit went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings themselves. They're also 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with the Raptors. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the underdog in this one. This is not going to be a popular decision here. Give me Detroit plus 7.5 in the over 216. Next ball game, it is going to be Orlando versus Charlotte, and that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Charlotte is minus 10.5 with the total at 225. Now, the Red Hot Hornets are on a 4-game winning streak, and they successfully cover the point spread in 8 out of their last 10. Now, Charlotte scores more points per contest at home than any other team in basketball. They also lead the association in home three-point shooting, and they've actually covered the number in over 82% of their contests at the Spectrum Center. Miles Bridges is averaging nearly 20 points a game, along with 7 boards and 3 assists. Meanwhile, LaMelo Ball is scoring over 19 points a game himself, along with 7 rebounds and 7 assists as well. When it comes to defensive play, the Hornets are in the top 5 in the NBA in guarding the 3 ball at home. Now, they're taking on a Magic team who's on a 10-game losing streak, and they've also gotten the W in only 7 out of 42 ball games for the entire season. Orlando averages only 101 points a game offensively, and they're amongst the worst shooters in basketball. The Magic's in the bottom 3 in offensive field goal percentage, and they're also making only 32% of their three-pointers. I would say that Orlando is officially, and they have been for a while, a dumpster fire. But anyway, injury-wise, Carter is out. Bamba and Suggs are questionable. Meanwhile, for Charlotte, Oubre, Carey, and Jones, they're sitting this one out here today, so you're not going to see those guys in action here tonight. But when it comes to the total in this one, Charlotte's 10-7 to the over in the Queen City. They also went 70% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Orlando. And speaking of the Magic, they went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings themselves. And those were overs against the likes of Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston during that stretch. I'm going to lean towards Charlotte, minus 10.5, in the over 225. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Warriors versus the Bulls, 7:30 Eastern start time. Chicago's minus 3.5 with the total at 222. Now, the Bulls have won 8 out of their last 10 ball games. They're also winning 75% of their home games as well. DeMar DeRozan scoring 26 points a game along with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Zach LaVine is drilling over 41% of his 3 balls. He's also scoring 25 points a game. And speaking of 3 balls, the Bulls lead the entire NBA in offensive 3-point percentage. Of course, no surprise here. These guys are also in the top 3 in shooting from the field. Now, they're taking on a Warriors team who, at one point in this season, seemed unbeatable. But I'll tell you what, the Warriors, they've really struggled over the past couple of weeks or so. Golden State lost 4 out of their last 5 ball games. And they posted a record of just 2-6 against the spread in their last 8. So these guys are human. I think teams are starting to adjust to their style of play. And as good as the Warriors have been this season, they do actually have a losing record against the point spread when traveling. Now, when it comes to the scoring, Golden State is actually in the bottom 5 in second quarter scoring on the road. So once again, if you're into prop betting, you may want to think about firing on a second quarter prop here. Now, injury-wise, Green, Payton, and Thompson, they're out for today's contest. Meanwhile, for Chicago on the other side, not a lot of things changing there. Jones and Caruso, they are still out indefinitely themselves. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Chicago's last 7 ball games fell under the posted number, and those were overs against the likes of Detroit, Dallas, and Orlando. Now, Chicago also went 60% to the under in their last 10 meetings with the Warriors. Meanwhile, Golden State saw 4 out of their last 5 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean towards Chicago, minus 3.5, in the under 222. Next ball game, it is going to be Hawks versus the Heat, and that's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Miami's minus 5 with the total at 221.5. Now, Miami successfully covered the point spread in their last 4 straight, 8-2 straight up in their last 10. The Heat's winning 75% of their home games this year, and they lead the entire NBA in defensive boards. Tyler Hero's grabbing 5 rebounds a game. Meanwhile, scoring-wise, Hero's dropping over 20.5 points a night. Meanwhile, Kyle Lowry, he's scoring 13 points a game himself, along with 4 rebounds and 8 assists. Now, shooting-wise, the Heat's in the top 3 in offensive 3-point percentage. They're taking on an Atlanta team who's on a 3-game losing streak themselves, and they also dropped 7 out of their last 9. Now, the Hawks have also struggled to cover on the road this season. They're allowing nearly 113 points a game when they travel, and they're covering just 36% of those away games. And when it comes to the injury report, Capella is out. Herter and Johnson are questionable. Meanwhile, for Miami on the other side of things, Opala and Garrett are out for them. Jimmy Butler is questionable. And when it comes to the number in this one, Miami saw 6 out of their last 10 meetings with Atlanta fall under the posted total. Meanwhile, the Hawks, they went 3-1 to the under in their last 4 themselves, with unders against the likes of the Clippers, Sacramento, and this very Miami team during that stretch. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Heat -5 in the under 221.5. All right, next ball game, it is going to be Cavaliers versus the Spurs, 8:30 Eastern start time. Cleveland's -4 with the total at 221.5. Now, for laying 2 buckets on the road here, the Cavs have actually really struggled to cover the point spread here lately. Cleveland's gone just 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 outings. And they're also in the bottom 10 in the NBA in scoring on average per game. You know, we saw a ton of covers with Cleveland here earlier in the season. Then, of course, over the past, couple of weeks or so, I feel like the books really took notice of that and started to, properly adjust their lines. Once again, Cleveland struggling to get the job done against the number here recently. Now, they're taking on a Spurs team who's averaging 116 points a night in the AT&T Center. And they actually lead the entire NBA in offensive field goal percentage at home. These guys are kind of like offensive juggernauts in front of their home crowd. Now, Jacob Poeltl's making 60% of his field goals this season. He's also averaging 12 points a night and 8 boards. Meanwhile, DeJounte Murray, he's the team's leading scorer. He's averaging over 18.5 points a game himself, along with 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Now, San Antonio's in the top 10 in shooting from 3 land at home. They're amongst the best home offensive rebounding teams in the Western Conference. Now, injury-wise, White is questionable. Collins is still out. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Rondo and Okoro, they are questionable for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Cleveland saw unders recently against the likes of Memphis, Indiana, and Atlanta. The Cavs also went 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with the Spurs. Meanwhile, San Antonio's a staggering 15-3 to the over in front of their home fans. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio +4 in the over 221.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Rockets versus the Kings, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Sacramento's -5 with a total at 237.5. Now, the Kings successfully covered the point spread in their last 2 straight. And those were covers against the likes of Cleveland and the Lakers during that span. Having said that, though, Sacramento did lose 5 out of their last 6 ball games, and they're currently 10 games below 500 for the entire season. Now, the Kings' big problem this season has been their defense or lack thereof. It's kind of been the problem in Sacramento over the past handful of seasons. The Kings are allowing 114 points a game, and they're in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage. Now, they're taking on a Houston team who actually has a winning record against the point spread on the road this year, and they're in the top 5 in fourth quarter scoring. Always a threat of that backdoor cover here with Houston. It seems like scoring-wise, they come alive late in games. Now, Christian Wood is averaging over 17 points a night, along with a couple assists and double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Eric Gordon is drilling nearly 46% of his three-pointers, and he's also averaging 14 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Sengun is questionable for Houston. Meanwhile, for Sacramento, Thompson, Holmes, and Bagley, they are questionable for them. Jones is actually listed as out. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Sacramento's last 9 fell under the line, 60% to the under this year at the Golden One Center. Meanwhile, Houston saw unders recently against the likes of Philadelphia, Washington, and Charlotte. I'm going to lean toward Houston +5. And the under 237.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. It is going to be Mavericks versus the Grizzlies, and that's going to be a 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is -3 with the total at 215.5. The Red Hot Grizzlies are on an 11-game winning streak, 10-1 against the spread during that stretch. Having said that, though, no, I'm just kidding. Memphis is winning nearly 70% of their home games, and they're leading the entire NBA in offensive rebounding. Ja Morant's grabbing nearly 6 rebounds a game, 24 points a night for Ja. Meanwhile, Desmond Bane, he's been a real threat to shoot the ball from beyond the arc. He's drilling over 42% of his three-pointers, and he's also averaging over 17.5 points a game. Certainly a great first half of the season for Desmond Bane. Now, the Grizzlies are scoring over 114 points a night at the FedEx Forum. Meanwhile, defensively on the other end of the court, They actually find themselves in the top 10 in defensive boards. Now they're taking on a Dallas club who struggles getting to the hoop. They're scoring only 105 points a game, and they're also in the bottom 10 in shooting the three ball on the road. Now Dallas is going to have to go to work here tonight without Kristaps Porzingis and Willie Cauley-Stein. Both of those guys sitting this one out here tonight. Meanwhile, for Memphis on the other side of things, Brooks is still out. Ponce and Adams are questionable. Now, total-wise, 4 out of Memphis' last 6 got over the posted number. The Grizzlies are also 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Dallas. And speaking of the Mavs, they saw a contest recently with Houston, Portland, and Utah get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Memphis -3 in the over 215.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 3-1 in our last 4 board member tier package picks. I like Philadelphia -3.5 over 212. Phoenix -5.5 over 220. Detroit +7.5 over 216. Charlotte -10.5 over 225. Chicago -3.5 under 222. Miami Heat -5 under 221 and a hook. San Antonio +4 over 221.5. Houston +5 under 237.5. And with my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward Memphis -3 and the over 215.5. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, if you guys do end up getting a membership here today on my website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up, and then the first of every month after that if you continue to opt in. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, you're going to get access to those picks all the way through the end of January. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And of course, guys, like I said, over the past week, we've had a tough time winning games on that website right now. I'm not going to make any mistake about it. I post my record every day. If you want to see it, it's right on the homepage at brockpage.com. All you have to do is scroll down. Having a tough time winning ball games right now. Just got to throw that out there. I appreciate your vote of confidence and sticking with me. We're going to do our best to win games and get back on track. We've had losing streaks before. We've always bounced back strong. This is just a tough spot right now. We're losing games, and I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to say everything's great because it's not. I do want to highlight one of the few bright spots, which is the board member tier. But we're having a tough time. We got to bear through it. Hey, this is a big boy game. You're not going to win every game. But I do need to do a better job. Got to start winning some more games, period. And I'm doing my best to do that for you guys. But anyway, guys, most important, and I'll tell you this much before we close it out, with the whole Patreon thing, with the whole website thing, even if you don't use those picks on that site, every patron, every donation, every dollar that is, spent on that website, all that is doing is ensuring that I'm going to be able to produce this free content on YouTube day in, day out. You know what I mean? Because, the more, patrons we have on my website, the longer we can keep this thing alive, right? If we start to dip in patrons or, the website eventually, doesn't have enough members and I can't make a solid living, well, I got to go get a 9-to-5 and I can't do free picks every day and I can't do the YouTube channel. So it all works together. It's very important. So I don't take it for granted. You guys are awesome. And all in all, guys, I just have to do better. I got to start winning games. It is what it is. I hate losing. I hate losing money. I hate losing my money. So it is what it is. Just got to be, open and honest with you. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Ultimately, this is the bread and butter. This is the brand. This is the most important thing, producing the content here for free for you guys every single day. So I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you guys enjoy all this great free information, all this great free content. It takes a lot of time, a lot of hours putting into it. Never a day off. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. And with that, happy Friday to you. That's a good thing. It's Friday. The weekend's here. Happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.